I am already anticipating the Wi-Fi is going to be lousy today, so if I get cut off, that'll be the reason why. I guess cut off prematurely, I should say. Yesterday, I woke up to a surprise. It was raining. I've mentioned before that over here the heat has been just unbearable. I mean, it was so shocking to me that we even had rain that I actually, when I first heard the noise of it outside, because it started roughly around the time I woke up, I thought somebody had turned on the sprinkler. Like I just couldn't believe after such a long period of just nonstop heat that we had some different weather for once. It was nice. Speaking of things that are nice, I cannot say the same for the situation here. That's for sure. I actually ordered this book on I think it was Saturday. The Audacity of Hope. When I was in 10th grade, I was assigned a research paper where I had to read the book and do a report on it. I got an A. And I remember distinctively that my teacher, who was very much aware of my interest in politics, gave me that book specifically, was like, hey, I have this book for you. And I was like, wow. So it'll be nice to be reunited with it after all these years. Because I remember really enjoying it. It was about his 2004 Senate run and just him describing campaigning and go. I remember the part where he's like talking about going to church services and trying to be allowed to give a speech there, and it was um it was something I definitely can see myself wanting to read again. Yeah, I'm telling you, things I do to stream, it's not even funny. Like seriously, sometimes I think I must really love YouTube, just the stuff that's that you put up with to even like get somewhere to talk for a few hours. I must really have a lot of affection in my heart for this site. Sometimes there'll be a like some clothes I'll have and it'll get a stain on it. Um and I will never be able to figure out where that stain came like where it came from. Like you'll have a coat or something or a shirt and it'll have something that looks like a marker. And be like, I don't even use markers. I have nothing that's this color. Where did that arise? Just be the most random shade of whatever that it just pops up as. Yeah, Kotsky merchant. I think I'm probably gonna end up banning you. You said that I was dirt cheap, that you could probably get me for a few dollars, and I really didn't appreciate it. I'm at least $4 at a minimum. So this will probably be your last stream. You've said some very disparaging things, so you've made some historical inaccuracies. So this is your final appearance. I hope you enjoyed attending these, because this is the last time we'll ever see you. So make sure whatever you have to say, you say it now, because after this, you won't be able to. Your final appearance. I'm not even. I'm actually for this part. I'm not joking. Were you drunk on Saturday? 'Cause you were saying some pretty weird stuff. Like, were you intoxicated or maybe had something to drink the night before? I'm not judging. I'm just really curious. So every time I wake up, I just have a something that annoys me. I don't know what I was thinking. No, that's gonna be one of the most laughed at comments out of the last, I don't know, dozen or half dozen streams. Where did you get books so dirt cheap? I'm like, dude, the idea that in an era where readership is at an all time low, you would even ask me that is hilarious. Like, because I'm just imagining there's this alternate universe where people put up auctions for books and there's whole debates and arguments and bidding wars and nothing like that. You Some of the cheapest stuff in this world are novels. I mean, I went on Amazon yesterday. I saw somebody, they put up Audacity of Hope for like one for $1, and I think it was 15 cents, less than $2. And of course with shipping it's probably going to be like 3 or 4 altogether, but still it's like I thought that was really funny. I see Envoy is trying to make a reappearance after vanishing for so long. Now, Envoy, the last time you were here, to my shock and chagrin, you mentioned Huey Long, uh, because I had talked about wanting to do a documentary on Johnson, and part one of that should be out either by Friday or this upcoming weekend. No, I'm just laughing at Envoy like and Envoy at Akatsuki Merchant because he's like he really made it sound as if people care about reading. And listen, people sell great A quality. Like I could see if it was something that was ruffled, pages are torn out of it, whatever. But people will sell you copies of books that look like they just came off the shelf. That like you would wonder if anybody had ever read it, and it'll be at 3, 4, $5. We can understand Louisiana's never really been a state I've cared too much about the, I guess, historical figures of, for lack of a better term. I mean, like my grandparents were from South Carolina and Mississippi. Uh, and if you want to talk about senators, I mean, South Carolina had Thurman, who was when he retired the longest serving senator ever. Uh, but in the case of a lot of those other states, it's whatever to me. But like even with just thinking about Louisiana off the top of my head, like besides the Longs, is there anyone from there that I would say was historically significant? Maybe there was. I'm not thinking of it at the moment, but uh, the last person from there I can really remember that's not currently in office is Bobby Jindal, that governor that was tried to run for president and got smushed, who kind of just sits in his bunker nowadays. So it's just not a state I've ever been that interested in as far as the politics of it are concerned. I do feel bad for the people that live there because there are a lot of poor people in Louisiana, especially in New Orleans. Well, New York is different. That's one of the largest states in the country. Uh, and actually, California, I would argue, besides Nixon and Reagan, who Reagan wasn't even born here. There's really, like, on a national scale, there's really not. Well, I guess you could argue Arnold, but you get my point. That I'd say New York is very much more so inclined to. I mean, we don't even have to talk about FDR, but it's like you have Al Smith, the first Catholic ever nominated for by a major party for president. to where nowadays they still have the Al Smith dinner where the candidates go and roast each other. So, I'd say New York has a bigger claim to fame than we probably do. That's where you can kill one of these things and the whole nest will just reappear. That was actually why I had considered going up to Starbucks today because I can't have to deal with those things for 2 hours. But such is the fate of the streamer, beholden to whatever weird things are happening at their place of recording. They just keep coming and coming. It's nuts. Oh man. I know New York is big, but I was surprised at the sheer scope of it when I actually went there. I don't know why you'd be surprised. It's one of the largest states in the country, but okay. Also, Envoy, people need to have a idea of time. Like they need to be able to. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people might be able to name a famous person, but they have no idea how old the person is when they were born, especially if it's a historical figure. And this causes them to say or possibly state things that are extremely incorrect, like almost like if you had it's how do I explain it? If I were to like if someone were to ask me who was president during the 80s and I said, "Oh, Obama," you would instantly be like, "What the?" Because it's so far removed from the time period where he was even, able to run for anything. So when Akatsuki Merchant said that he thought Carter was president during World War II, I almost fell to the floor laughing on Saturday. I was like, Carter was born in 1924. World War II ended in 45. So if he had become president during that conflict, he would have been either in his late teens or very early 20s. But he reminded me of when I was in 11th grade and I had this teacher and she asked one of my classmates who won the 1932 presidential election, and this girl like turned and she kind of you could almost tell she knew she was wrong. She was like, Kennedy. And it took everything I had not to laugh because I remember that JFK was born in 1917. So if he were to win the 1932 election, he would have become president at 15 years old. But I'm saying people really have these like I just find it interesting because it really tells you that someone can know who a person is. Maybe they can know what their position was, etc. But there's like so much basic stuff they can't just like put together, like for example, if he said, "Oh, if I said who was president, who got elected in 72 or 76, and he said Reagan, that's wrong, but not by that much, right? It's only 8-year difference from when it actually happened, 4-year difference. It's just like the magnitude of it, right? Like just how just far off that is, just that was what I thought was so funny about it. Oh my god. Dude, next, you know what I'm gonna do? Every time somebody asks me who is, or rather, I'm gonna do a thing where I'm gonna ask people who was present during the Civil War, and we're gonna go off of like your what you did, right? I'm gonna say it was Let me see who was in their like 20s when the Civil War was going on. McKinley. Yeah, I'm gonna say McKinley was president during the Civil War. That's how like botched that answer was. I just want to make sure my comparison is accurate because for it to be, I have to remember just what exact. Let me see here. Okay, born in 1843. Civil War ended when he was 22. Yep, good example. So now from now on, when people if I'm asked people who was president during the Civil War, and I'm the lie and say it was McKinley, that he was elected president at 17 or 18, and the war ended when he was 22, and he served out another, I don't know, 8 terms until he was assassinated in 1901. Oh my god. It's not just that some people can't even tell you the difference between countries or what continents they're in. I honestly think a lot of people don't know Canada is part of North America. Well, I mean, I'm just saying that, we had a conversation about not knowing basic historical figures, but there's also the semblance of the idea that people don't even like know what time period they were in. Like that's also an issue. What did Andrew Jackson think of the Civil War? He was deceased. He thought nothing of it. I wish that he had lived to see that because it would have been interesting to get the reaction of the pro-slavery president who was a unionist to the conflict that was initiated over that issue. Not to mention that it also would have been nice because uh, Lincoln was the first president to win re-election since Jackson, so it would have all tied together. There's just so many of these things. It doesn't matter how many you get rid of; they just keep popping up and reappearing and spawning, and it's really annoying. Yeah, some genius decided it was a good idea to put a bunch of boxes up against the wall, and I really hate that because they put it right by the outlet. So whenever you try to charge something, you run the risk of having all that stuff fall off of each other, like because it's all stacked on top. So another beautiful inconvenience brought to you by the geniuses that I'm forced to be around, unfortunately. Oh man, they just do not go away. Well, the geography of people has always been a joke. Like you go and pull out a world map right now, and I bet a bunch of people couldn't even name where Russia is. It's you start asking them name 3 countries from the Middle East. Come on. I'm just gonna say this. I've been surprised by some of the stuff that people do know. Um, whether it's about an individual, about a conflict, whatever. But I've never been shocked by the depths of people's stupidity. That's never been something surprising to me ever. Because as I said before, being uninformed is one of the easiest things you can do. It's one of the simplest, basic, it's not hard at all. It's one thing to not know where Russia is. That's one thing. But like you said, they can't name three countries in the Middle East. You got, yeah. And Russia's the biggest country on the map, so they just really got to look out for that. They don't care. Just like with this conflict in Ukraine, I said, here's a country that no one ever talked about at all for years, and it gets invaded by Russia, and somehow now everyone cares about it. Now I'll never forget Yemen after all the videos I made about that nonsense going on over there. Oh, these things, man. I have to admit, it is nice to have some weather that's not a bunch of a bunch of heat for once. That's always great. Best part of the week so far. Yeah, so many. It's where people have animals and it's like they exist to annoy you to the greatest possible extent they can. Like this dog is barking and barking and barking. What is it barking at? No one knows. Just bark. Let's see. Went to the market. I was so happy that they finally had some candy corn. I've been waiting for that for I don't know how many months. I searched in vain. I couldn't find on a bus, a store, or a train, but it finally appeared. My prayers were at last answered. And they give you a lot for $2. And it's like I'm telling you, every week there's some new weird scenario where it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. I'm not even going to go into the specifics of it because this person is here right now, unfortunately, but I'll put it this way. Imagine if I gave you an address to pick someone up from, and you go to the address that I give you, right? After you go there, you can't find the thing I'm talking about, although it looks pretty similar, right? Because it looks similar to what you described. So then you call me, and that's when you find out after I send you an image that the address I gave you was wrong because when I was cropping the picture, I cropped out the first digit, but then somehow I get mad at you for going to the wrong address, even though I'm the one that gave you the wrong address. I'm just gonna say I see why men's suicides are so much higher than women's. With stuff like that, because it's like it's one thing to try to make somebody do something they don't want to do. Have to go and run this errand, but then it's another to like get mad at them for something that I can't understand would even remotely be considered their fault. Like you have to really just do all kind of mental gymnastics to even assign blame to the person that followed your order. Like I said, this whole thing is just so crazy to me. Like who does that? Like I said, I live in the twilight zone. I'm not ever I mean, there's stuff that does shock me or surprise me, but at a certain point you just get used to the nonsense, the misplaced aggression, the all the blame. Well, I've seen some people that uh their entire disposition towards a movie is from watching reviews of it. They haven't even seen the film, but they watch like 15 different angry reviews about it. So now they're experts on it. They can tell you why it's so horrible. One of my other favorite things is where people will say I haven't seen the movie in full. I've only seen clips of it. It's like, wait, so you're admitting you haven't seen it then? I mean, if I pulled out a book and I go, when someone asks me, "Have you read the book?" I've only read pages of it. Okay, so you haven't read it. Like it's that simple. You either have or you haven't. But no, their entire basis as an online entity is getting fueled up by these channels that make reviews trashing every new movie that comes out, and then they go around writing like nasty stuff about it to people that like it. Um, pretending as if they're informed on it, even though they haven't seen it themselves. Their opinion is entirely manufactured by whichever big content creator they get their identity off of parroting the points of. It's really sad because, like I said, you go back and you look at critics, film critics from the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, really before YouTube and these other sites made it fashionable to get profit off of hating someone's work. A lot of those people, they might have written some nasty stuff here and there, but they didn't get paid any more or any less if they were positive or if they liked it. It was just them doing their job. That'd be a fun job to have, just going and watching movies. Like even if it was one I didn't really like that much, just your job is just watch this, write a review. You're an SJW. I'm still laughing at all the Barbie outrage. Like, imagine a movie coming out about a doll for girls, and the main opposition to it are not even like maybe these are some little boys that saw it and didn't like it, grown men who are like angry that it's geared towards women. Like, what a shock. Dude, could you imagine if like I'm trying to think of something. I don't know. If somebody went and saw the first Transformers back in 2007, they were like, it's like a woman. She's like, I can't believe the only woman in this movie is basically wearing skimpy clothing, and she's like second fiddle to the guy. Well, it's not really for them. So I mean, like you're getting mad that a movie about toys for boys is male centric. Like I'll tell you, if some woman actually tried to do that, she would get laughed at so hard. But unfortunately, we live in this era of I don't know, people just they can turn a really good profit off of you know telling you about the war and the all the supposed hatred that the person that made this movie has towards men. It's really sad that there's a profit to be made off of that, because it's just more of that same old division. Like I said, these people have a script where every time a new movie comes out and there's a prominent female character in it, they say that it's woke and SJW, and it's got an agenda and it's pushing a message, and not just all the same little drivel that they roll out every 6 or 7 months so they can turn a profit on their channel. Because I already said before, if movies were really as bad as they say they are, then I wouldn't be watching any of these. Like if every movie was just terrible, right? Just bad. It's got this message that's horrible, etc. I just wouldn't watch it. But the reason they watch it is because they know that regardless of what sense it makes to keep engaging with things that you claim are not good, they can turn a profit from it. Like I mentioned before, when Dragon Ball Super manga, for example, started getting boring to me, I stopped reading it. I just completely shut down from that book. I didn't make any chapter reviews. I said I'm done. And you know, it's because I don't my interest in a series or a topic is not predicated on, can I turn a profit from talking about this? With them, their entire identities as critics is basically every new thing that comes out is not good. And we have a pre-recorded series of lines. We play clips from interview. Like imagine making a movie review and you have to like dig for an interview clip of the director or of some actor, and it's like this isn't the movie itself. Like when you do a movie review, the only thing that should be in the movie review is the movie. Like it's one thing if you're doing a retrospective, but they're supposed to be giving these movie reviews, and I'm seeing clips from Entertainment Tonight and Variety, and I'm just like, what is this? I'll tell you, my favorite thing is that they always talk trash about the movie, but every time a new movie comes out, their review of it is up in the first 24 hours of that thing being released. Like imagine hating films so much that you rush out to see them every single time they come out. It's like, oh man, this new movie's gonna be horrible. Hey, you got our opening day tickets? Yeah, you bet I do. They rush over to the theater. Let me read what Megumi wrote. That's how you can tell how disingenuous this era has become, especially online. This site really makes people like that profit over this too, all for getting revenue. Bit late, but glad to have arrived regardless. Hope you're doing good. I wasn't doing very good on Saturday when you didn't show up. We waited for you. We had our Megumi hats on. We were all waving the UK flag, but you just didn't appear. You didn't even get to see me laugh at Akatsuki Merchant for saying that he was surprised I could find books for $3 in an era where people don't even read anymore. I'm saying that's one of my favorite lines from any stream this year. Like, you found books so dirt cheap. Like, dude, they don't nobody reads anymore. I like out of all the people I know in real life, the only one that reads, I'm talking where they get a book, they sit down, they look in it, they go through it, is yours truly. I don't my friend doesn't read, my parents don't read, the rest of my relatives don't read, my sibling does. I mean, none of these people do. That's why it's like you're shocked in an era where people do the last thing they care about in the world is reading. That something you only use to read would be cheap. I just at least I did watch down the replay. It was a cool stream. That's my favorite line out of anything. Like I'm telling you, like no one reads anymore. That's why books are so cheap because they like no one values them. Books are cheap due to the very low demand, isn't it? Yeah, the only time that I've seen books cost a respectable 20, 30, $40 is if you go to a bookstore because you know they're selling everything at retail price anyway. Um, or if you get some book that has something unique to it's like one that's signed by the author, or it's one of those special leather bound editions where I explained it's in a case or some kind of wrapping that is not atypical of a normal novel. Other than that, they always go for like $3, $4, $5, some single digit number. At least when you go online. If you go to places like Amazon and eBay, like I said, I was able to get 4 books this past weekend for less than $20, with shipping included. Because no one cares. Extremely low. You can get books cheaper than food at this point. Mangas are priced responsibly, but of course, it isn't the same as a book. Well, I already admitted mangas and comics are different because there's art in them, but just books where it's text, you can get those for good for much. Like again, highest I saw when I went looking around online was like $7. So they're really I suppose they're like you're always getting books like yeah they don't cost that much. It's just the reality. Like they're some of the cheapest things you can get. Until when I went on Amazon and somebody had this one book on there for less than $2. Oh, I didn't even mention I was on eBay one time and somebody put it's a small book. This is Christmas in Plains. Somebody put this on there for $3. And at first I wasn't gonna get it because I didn't really care that much. You know, it's just not something I'm tracking down or anything. And then they saw that I looked at it and they offered it to me for $1. And with shipping, it was 3. I was like, that's a hell of a deal. So I got it. It's a nice little small novel. Knock that thing over. But I'm just saying that books are really not expensive unless it's some kind of it's either unless it's a comic or some type of special edition. And even those aren't that big. Like I saw one person, they had the author's signature in there and they were only it was only like $20. I was shocked. Because that means it's even cheaper than it would be in a you know at regular retail price, even with the author's signature in there. Yeah, I've had that happen to me a couple of times when looking on eBay. Pretty nice when sellers do that. They had another sale where it was buy 3, get 1 free. I just thought it was funny. When you can't get a damn piece of chicken, you can get a book, especially if you use the internet because they are not expensive. That's the only saving grace about living in the non-reader era. And trust me, we are in the non-reader era. Like, remember you talked about going to streams where the person streaming can't even read your comments. And it won't it's not like, oh, there's like 100 people or 1,000. Like, no, it's like 20, 30 people. And sometimes a whole minute will go by and nobody types anything and they won't read your comment. They'll just have you typing and no response. Because we're in a non-reader era. I see that Envoy decided to go. He's not going to come to my streams anymore because he's having troubles with his ex. Anytime somebody doesn't come, we're just going to assume they're having troubles with their ex. That's going to be everyone's new excuse for why they can't show up. Trust me, that other one has completely disappeared. I don't know what the deal with her is. She just vanished. No, he's busy watching Barbie for for the the 82nd time probably. You know that's coming out on digital on I think September 5th. And of course I pre-ordered it because, I mean, who wouldn't? I'm actually not joking about what either two things I just said. I did pre-order it, but it's really funny because when I was on Twitter, these people who act like they're movie wizards and experts are like, why would you release $1 billion movie this early? You should keep it in theaters until October to try it. I'm just like, guys, you know, sometimes people don't understand that a movie can perform above expectations or to an expectation, and then after that, the studio is satisfied. If you have a film that was made on a budget of over 100 million, make a billion plus, the theater, I'm not theater, the company probably said, okay, well, we did what the numbers that we wanted and then some. Let's see what we can make by putting it on DVD. I mean, it's just so funny that they're acting like there isn't a thing called a box office drop off for a reason, that the people who really want to see a movie are going to see it in those first several weeks, right? And then after that, it's going to just, die down. Like I just thought that was funny. They act like they've never imagined the idea or the possibility that this film is not, going to make 2 billions. Like, yeah, it's slowed down after it reached a billion, and it's going to keep slowing down because the people who wanted to see it have already seen it. You should keep it in theaters till October. You should not try to tell the studio what to do. They've already made probably as much money as they think they can reasonably expect from it. So, they if they want to put it out, that's their business. That reminds me of when Sony people on Twitter were like, re-release Morbius, we're gonna go see it, and then Sony actually did re-release it, and it did even worse. And then they were like still messing with Sony, like, oh, we were busy that weekend, put it out again. Oh, it's ridiculous. It's like 25, 24. I think the but that's a digital copy, but the regular DVD is probably like I have to go look. I think it'll be something cheaper. Look, the only reason I bothered with that price is because this whole year I've only pre-ordered and bought two movies that came out: Spider-Verse 2 and this. Everything else. So because it's such a rare thing for me to even pre-order to begin with, I decided to pull the lever, so to speak. But trust me, if it were a more common thing, I wouldn't even bother. Just like I had a day this month, it was an anniversary that's very depressing to me. And I went to the theater and I said, you know what, I'm going to try an icy. I haven't had one of these since in years, right? And I said before, theater tickets cost too damn much. They want like $20 for two people to go see a movie, which I think is insane. But I figured, okay, well, if the ticket prices are getting so high, maybe it's because they offer you free food. I don't, because it's like, why else would the prices be so high if you don't get some kind of commodity besides going to see the damn movie? And after I pour my drink, I see a little counter where you're supposed to pay for the food, and I'm like, okay, well, the highest this thing could be is probably like $5. Oh, it was 6.25. Like when I pulled out my five and they said, I was like, oh, and I rolled my eyes. It's like, hey, but you know what? Only bought one of those. one time, not even one time this year, one time this decade. So they can have the $6 because that's all they're gonna get. To hell with them and their overpriced drinks. 6.25 for a large icy. Like, come on. I just think anytime a drink approaches $7, it's just I'd walk away. Like I go to the market and get 4 soups for $5. That's like 2 days of food for me. LOL, that has always amazed me just how outrageous the prices are on basic refreshments. Yeah, what gets me is that I tried to think to myself, okay, maybe because like I understand if it's a drink that's exclusive to there, they're probably going to price it a little bit higher than a regular old soda. I'm thinking maybe $4, probably five if I'm being less optimistic, but 6.25. Yeah, basic refreshments cost that much. Again, in addition to your ticket. So it's like you go to see a movie for 10, $11, $12, and by the end of it, you end up spending like 20, almost $30 just to go to theaters that one day. You realize that's like half like I don't encourage illegally watching films, but if you want to go to the theater and see a movie and it costs 15 to see the movie, another six something for a drink, and another God knows how much. If you go with somebody else, it's almost like $30. That's half a tank of gas, like over here. So that's why I said I don't encourage watching stuff illegally. But with prices like this, it's hard to be sympathetic towards these vendors. I'll put it that way. You really can spend $30 just to go watch a movie. Imagine if you brought a date or family. Oh yeah. I went with my brother to go see Spider-Verse 2, and it's like $20 for our tickets, and then if again we didn't get any drinks, but altogether that would have been 30. Yeah, Megumi, it is half a tank of gas if you want to spend 30 at a theater. Like I'm gonna go and get the gas. I'm not about to sit here and crap out all this money for to go to watch a movie one time, right? With a big screen, and then have to go and watch it again for the same price. It is ridiculous. That's why I tell you I only went to theaters to see 2 movies this whole year, and it's probably gonna stay that way. 6.25 for a drink. I'm not even joking. If I end up getting employed this year, like as a joke, I'll do a stream and I'll have one of the ice. Like ever since they started letting me work 40 hours a week, I can finally afford these expensive drinks. Hallelujah. It really is half a tank of gas just to go to the movies now. Like that's all you need to know about the overpriced nature of this stuff. The lady said, "Enjoy your movie." I walked right out the theater because I went there after I saw the film. Like my one of my favorite schemes is they say, "Oh, you get free refills if you have this cup." It's like, yeah, but if I'm watching a movie, am I really going to get up to go get a refill of this drink? Especially when there's no commercial breaks. There's no. I mean, that's why I said, man, these places just they're it's all a joke. The prices are a joke. I didn't even get to mention when I went to go see Barbie the second time. I had because this is at a theater I don't normally go to, so I asked the lady. It was a this woman. I asked her, "Hey, is it okay if I?" Because I came and bought my ticket like 40, 50 minutes before the showtime. I was like, "Is it okay if I leave and then come back?" And she's like, "As long as you have the ticket, everything's fine." And it's one of those things where I'm not a bit like I try not to give people crap for doing their job, but I swear when I go out in a public place. I try to at least maintain the illusion of being in a good mood. And it's like the people that work at these places, they seem like the most miserable, depressed, like that the way that lady answered that, you would almost think she just found out her parent died or something. It's just like it really sucks the life out of wanting to even interact with these people. Just the bad moods for like no reason. Like I could see if I said something nasty or whatever, but just wow, way just their whole demeanor and the like depressed way they say things and how irritated they are to even get have to do the job at all. It's just funny to me. Exactly. You don't get up mid movie for a refill only if you desperately need to use the restroom. I'm trying to remember what movie it was that I saw my dad where I had to use the bathroom so bad that when he wanted to sit down and watch like the credits, I just bolted out of the, the theater. I'm trying to remember what film it was. This is like 2015, I think. Um, it could have been Jurassic Park. Or I guess in that case, it would be Jurassic World. You know what I'm talking about? Where you go somewhere and you just ask a basic question. You don't ask it in some way like, "Hey, did you?" You're like, "Oh, is it okay if after I leave, I can come back and use the ticket to show up on time?" As long as you have the ticket. It's like Jesus. That's why I told you I'm always just thinking about how you'll work a job like the one I had 2 years ago, and they'll tell you about not 2 years ago, last year, and they'll talk about customer service, and then you look at the way that these people act at these places where they're like openly sounding as if they're about to go to sleep or like they got into some big altercation with somebody a moment ago, and it's like, wow, I really I'm not kidding. That stuff makes me not want to go back there. Just the weird like depressed mood of things. Damn, well, with that attitude, I think I'd probably dip sooner rather than later. Trust me, if I hadn't already paid for my ticket, I probably would have left. People just are in such they're just in a constant bad mood. That's all there is to it. They're just angry, they're upset over what? Who knows? I'm telling you, if I go there again and I see that lady in that front part, I'm not gonna watch anything. That's how bad that was. Like you ask somebody a basic question and they sound like they are the most annoyed, irritated, just frustrated person on earth. Now, of course, I won't go and complain to the manager because I'm not trying to get anybody fired. I'm not as evil as some of the people that did me. It's just because, like I said, I don't care about theaters. I can take them or leave them, especially that one. It's a little bit closer than a lot of other places, but I could go somewhere else. They're gonna tell you about your customer service, and then you look at the way these people act, where they're sitting over there frowning up and uh, just sounding completely dispossessed. Like at least when I work somewhere, I go, "Hey, welcome to et cetera. Or do you need it?" And it's just sad that like that's the person you have in front of your place. Like it'd be different if it was someone that was cleaning stuff. They don't talk to anybody. That's the person that checks you in with your ticket when you show up. So, I mean, people just they are so angry for like nothing. One of the worst attitudes I've ever seen from someone working anywhere. Just awful. Megumi wasn't here for this, but I asked earlier. Well, let me go into detail because I was waiting for him to show up on Saturday. Uh, So as you know, last week there not well, not last week, 2 weeks ago, 2 Mondays ago, there was a pretty insane altercation where a person told me to go pick something up that they already had, which I thought was stupid because why get something that you already have? But whatever. So I go to get that, and then they want me to go and help them lift a person from their place. And because they don't tell me to go and get this thing until the hour before this 30-minute drive to the person's place, I end up being late by about 10 or so minutes, and they say to me that I just don't like I drive past them as they're leaving from the place, and they like honking me, they're like, "Oh, you just don't move fast enough." And it really pissed me off because if this person hadn't given me this side quest, I would have shown up on time. If they had told me to do it earlier in the day, I could have done it earlier in the day and then showed up. I mean, any way you spin it, it's them putting that thing in front of me going there that caused me to, not show up on time. Um, this past, I think it was Thursday. Yeah, I was tasked with picking somebody up from a building, and the person, same individual that did that nonsense on Monday, that side quest, they gave me the address to the place. I show up to the place. I can't find where the front entrance is. And so I call the person. They start getting mad with me over the phone to where they actually say, just find the expletive place, like ing place. Um, and then they send me, before that, they send me another picture. And that's when I realized that what they did is, so when you crop an image, sometimes you might accidentally cut something out. They accidentally cut out the first digit of the building's name, or rather of the building's address. So like it's 5 digits. They cut out the first one. I went to somewhere that had that same 4-digit number. So it wasn't that far. It was like 4-minute drive. But I just thought it was crazy that they got mad at me for going to the address that they sent me, which was incorrect because they cropped too much of it out. It was I'm really getting sick of this person, man. It's like every week you get put in these lose-lose situations. Like, pick up this thing you don't want to pick up. You pick it up and then you're late to the other things, they get mad at you. Uh, Pick this person up even though you don't want to. You pick them up and then, oh, you went to the wrong address because I gave you the wrong address. It's just, oh, yeah, that's my response to Megumi. What the hell? That's what I said when I hung up the phone on him. I was like, are you serious? And it's just the indignation. Like, it's one thing to be like, hey, you know what? I'm sorry I gave you the wrong address. I was typing something, but can you go over there instead? Uh, Nothing like that. No humility at all. Just bark more orders, tell somebody to go here, go there. You can almost believe that they did that on purpose to you. Oh yeah, I mean, trust me, the levels of depravity that we've seen of these people, I wouldn't even be surprised. What did you write earlier? Don't you need to be very presentable and welcoming to the customers or guests when you work in places like that? I just don't get it. Yeah, you're supposed to when you're in the front of a building, like Walmart, for example. They used to have the Walmart greeter. I don't know if they still do, but you're supposed to, how are you? What can I get? Like the guy that was actually the one who gave me the tickets was completely fine, but the woman who had to check out my ticket and that I asked one question of sounded like she was the most miserable person on earth, like just completely devoid of any joy. I mean, I felt as if, and I don't like to talk about auras or toxic influences, but it was like as I that one exchange like on a spiritual level drained some of the joy I had, and I already didn't have that much happiness that day anyway. But it was like, wow, like just because there are some people who have bad stuff happen to them and they can still put on like an image of being positive or excited for something or making some jokes, whatever, like lighten the mood. It's just so weird to be that like annoyed sounding over someone asking, hey, is it okay if I leave and then come back? It's like, sorry that I don't want to get accused of trying to skip paying for a ticket or anything. Like, because sometimes what happens is that these people they have their shifts. So one person who saw you buy a ticket might not be there when you come back in 50 minutes. They might be on break. And then, the person that comes up next who doesn't recognize you might think that you're trying to go see the movie for free. Well, yeah, that is what you need to do when you're working in positions like that. Need to put personal problems aside, of course. I'm telling you, I've never, out of all the jobs I've had, I've never sounded that annoyed or angry when speaking to a customer or some random person that didn't do anything to me. Like even with that crazy broad from the Speed Obsession stream, the only things I would say to her, or excuse me, the only time I would talk to her is when spoken to, and I would just have my regular like, I wouldn't make any jokes as I used to before, um, but I would, still try to present the air of, "Okay, alright, this needs to be done alright." Not, "What do you want?" Well, not saying, "What do you want?" But just like, yeah. It kinda reminds me of the lady that was at the, you probably don't remember this, Megumi, but I was, like, trying to call the Secretary of State's office over here to figure out about running for, the House, and I mentioned that they kept, like, trying to transfer me to some number that kept disconnecting, and there were 2 women. One of them was working from home, one of them was some other sweeter voice sounding lady, and I told the guy in the middle, I was like, "Hey, there's this lady that keeps transferring me to this number that keeps disconnecting, and it's woman 2. Woman 1 thinks I'm talking about her and is like, "So I thought you were," and like you could tell from her just as quickly as she was speaking that she was angry, even if she didn't say anything that was directly nasty, to where I didn't even get a word in. And I was like, this is some of the just most ridiculous, unprofessional, not like honestly, sometimes I'm really astonished. And I'm gonna tell you this. I'm sometimes really amazed by the unprofessionalism of adults. Like the way that that woman acted, you would think her career was put on the line by me not even claiming about her, but her mistaking or the guy mistaking me to be talking about her. Like it was nuts. And remember, I called up there just to ask a few questions about, getting ballot access. How many signatures do I need? Where do I get the papers for this? When will they be available? And this lady just like, and again, like, I think any person would get irritated if they keep getting transferred to a number that disconnects because they're not getting anything answered. And they get so upset to where like and they're slick about it because when they see people, they can convince themselves certain things. So if I don't call you out of your name, if I don't say anything that in a transcript could sound like it's bad, it's okay. But trust me, if I had recorded that and the way she was speaking, you could tell exactly how nasty she was. A lot of grown adults tend to overreact over very trivial things or situations. That was really crazy. That's why I said I didn't even call that number back. I still have the number like on my thing. I am promising myself I will never call them again. That was terrible. Transfer me to a number that disconnects 3 times. Then when I try to explain the situation, the crazy first broad working there wants to start screaming or start like trying to say I accused her of something, then hang up in my face. I let me have a word. That's nuts. Her verbal filibuster where she's talking for like a whole minute about what accusations I levy towards her, and then you can't even get a word in to say no, that's not what happened. Just hope you understand stuff like that is really irritating because I needed questions answered. I was trying to, figure this stuff out. And instead of just speaking to one person that could answer my questions, I was transferred to several numbers that ultimately led to nowhere except a disconnect and uh, the verbal diarrhea of the lady that thought I was accusing her of giving me the wrong number. But that's honestly the biggest problem with these different agencies where nobody really feels like they have to answer anything. They can just keep sending you to that person, transfer you to this, transfer you to that. because it really means that their job is just them sitting in front of a phone, clicking this and sending it there. Like there's no depth of knowledge, no basic understanding of anything themselves. It's just people clicking buttons. Imagine if real life was like that. Like, hey, I want to talk to you about this. Oh, let me transfer you to my secretary, and then you click the button, and they get like warp, like teleported somewhere. Like they just disappear in a beam of light. I'm not joking. Some of the rudest people on these jobs are almost always women. Like I don't know what it is. I don't know why. I really have no idea why. But the two really bad exchanges I've had with employees working at these different places, whether it's at the movie theater or with the Secretary of State's office, were women. They get very angry easily. You could ask the most basic of questions. Just I don't know what it is. I really I don't. Yeah, they probably feel they can get away with their negligence since there won't be any consequences. Yeah. I told you that with the what is that? Mad at Men. Dude, if you saw how like I'm telling you, I call a verbal filibuster when someone is talking like so fast and without any breaks to where you can't even say anything. Like if Megumi, like if this were like a VC on Discord or a voice call on Skype, and I was like, "Yeah, Megumi, you didn't come to my stream on Saturday, and I was very disappointed about the fact you didn't come to my stream, and you really pissed me off because I was waiting hours for you, and how could you do this to me? And I'm so sick of." And I like hang up right after that. It's like that was a verbal filibuster. You didn't get a single word in, as I just went on and on about how disgusted I was by what you did or what I perceived you to have done. And it's like, what good came out of that? You got told off by someone for what could have been an honest misunderstanding, which is what happened there. And that's what that lady did. I didn't get a single word in as she was like describing this situation in this hostile tone. And at the end of it says, have a good day. It's like, God, that is I'm telling you, man, people feel really powerful over the phone. That's all I can say. They feel like gods when they're on the end of a line. Just the belligerence. You can't even get like I'm telling you, I've never, whether it's been over the phone or in person with someone, spoken for like so with like no breaks, right? Just run on sentences, full stop, and you don't even get to a single word in. Like, damn, that was terrible. I don't ever want to call them again. Mad at guys who haven't done anything to impact their day whatsoever. Well, I tell you, nobody cares about men. So, well, you know what it is at the Secretary of State's office. They probably don't get that many calls from people anyway. Like, I mean, what I'm talking about, like somewhere, like what it is that they're really used to just sitting there at their desk, and maybe they get 5 calls a day, 6 calls a day, and most of those calls are just like procedural, like, hey, is this person in the office, etc. So when someone calls and tries to ask them some questions, they're like, okay, I can just swat them off. I can send them to this number. And so when the person is like trying to actually speak to somebody and they're saying, hey, this is not working, you tried to say I was doing, that's probably why that I guess they're not used to having anyone like push back or, try to actually get some answers on something. It was really horrible. I usually don't get so disgusted by a place to where I'm like, I'm never calling them again. I'm never calling that place again. I have their number and I'm making sure that the only way I could call them again is if I call the other Secretary of State offices and like no one answers or I get the same thing, then maybe I'll try again. But besides that, too toxic, too nasty. Just that was really nuts. That's one of the worst experiences I've had with employees anywhere ever. Just constantly being transferred to a number that doesn't work. No one's on the other end. And then when you inquire about like why is this happening, the first person like snaps at you like they've lost their mind or they didn't take their meds this morning. Like I just don't think that's normal. I feel like if I were in that situation and I thought somebody was saying I was sent to the wrong number, I would say, hey, I don't know what the deal is. I'm being told that I was transferring you to some number that doesn't work. Is that true? When I say to this number, does it not work? Like, I'm serious. I don't like. Um, I guess this was exemplified by the interaction I had with the guy that was mad I was parked on the other side of the street. Even I'm so afraid you're parked in front of my house, even though this isn't actually the front of my house and it's on the adjacent side. I I pick my battles. So if it's something that doesn't have to escalate, I'm probably not going to respond in that manner. It was awful. I see why when I go to the market, I always use self checkout because the way people act, these damn employees, I just can't put up with anymore. I can only put it down to yet another bad experience. Man, they wasted my time so hard. Like you didn't get a single question answered. It still begs the question how they landed their position in the first place. I'm telling you, a lot of these jobs are just people doing the mundane stuff, right? Like they fill out some paperwork, they, answer some yes or no type questions. Maybe they're good at relaying whatever stuff the person wants answered. But as far as anything like having to do with customers and just acting like a halfway decent human being, don't count on it. Seriously, man, this is the era of people acting like animals. Like the way that they talk to other people and treat them, it's really an embarrassment. And remember, this isn't some rinky-dink store. This is the Secretary of State's office. This is supposed to be one of the like an accredited government sanctioned organization. Like this is supposed to be one of like the big places, and that's the way that they act. And like I said, the other two people that work there, perfectly fine. But they always have that one bad apple, that one person that just I don't know what it is. They just can't get with the program, I guess. That reminds me when I was at that one restaurant and somebody was trying to order something, and when they give you their credit card number, um, I think I'm talking about where when you type it in, if you make one mistake, like if you make one mistake, it'll just like cancel out the whole thing. It'll just say it doesn't work, number not connected, whatever. Like you can't just click one number by accident and then type it again or go back. Like when you're on like a device, like a TV, and you put in 2519 and then nine's wrong. Let me go back eight. You can't do that on their little stupid devices. So this one guy called and was like, "Give me the number," and it was on my first day, and it was like, "Okay, I got the number wrong. Can you say it again?" It's like, "I already told you. You're not paying attention. Let me speak to your manager." I'm like, "Damn." Because when you type those things in, you have to give the exact number or it doesn't go through, and there's no way of editing the number to like go back. So if you make one mistake, you have to start all over again. And when you're in one of these different food places, you can imagine they have noises in the background and people. Oh, Megumi, that customer was crazy as hell because I asked him where he was because you know when you want to order something, you give him the address to send the thing to. He's like, "I'm not from here, man. I'm at a hotel." I'm like, "Well, okay, but how is it our problem if you don't know?" Like, you get where it's crazy that because he's at a hotel, we're supposed to like figure out where he is. We're supposed to like look up all the different hotels in the area or state or whatever, and then go from there and like finally be able to. I knew from that interaction that that order was gonna just not go well. And of course, he called back complaining, "Oh, I ordered this and I got that, etc., etc." That was my favorite thing about working at that place, that people would order stuff or they try like you start to try to get them to order something and they order a whole bunch of crap and then when it's like very expensive, they just cancel the whole thing altogether. Like there was this one lady that called in and she was like, "Oh, you guys are have food? Okay, cool. I'm gonna order I want to order some food for my kids." And she orders like four different plates, all a bunch of different stuff on them, and they're all about maybe $10 to $20, depending how big they are. And by the end of it, it's like 70 or 80. And she's like, never mind, that's ridiculous. I'm like, Bimbo, you're ordering like four or five different plates that are like this big. Like, what did you know what I'm saying? It's just it's funny because like I don't care one way or the other because you get paid one way or the other, but it's just funny that do they forget like do they just in their minds not know to factor in the prices of things? Like, you know, when you go somewhere and you start thinking, okay, this is $8, this is 10, this is three, so that's probably going to be like, you know, 21, 22, whatever. They do they just like order stuff and have like no idea how much it costs, like at all, like no possible thought in their head that this stuff might end up being several dozen dollars or like you know what I'm saying? Like they just don't even think of what the price could be until you read them the price. Oh man, people are awful, time wasters, get mad over anything, just crap. Some people definitely do that. It's like one of the most stupidest things ever. We get where it's annoying because it's like you just sat here and talked to this person, answered all their questions for like 3, 4 minutes. Yeah, they get mad when they hear the toll. It's even worse than that because when I was at that retailer last year, somebody was trying to get some products. And they were like, "Hey, why does it cost so much?" I was like, I mean, and they're like, "Oh, how much does this spray cost?" Because they're on the phone with their woman or whatever, and I put the thing and I look and I go, "It's $8." Like, man said $8 for some Lysol. I'm like, no, I'm not saying anything. This is the price. I didn't make the prices. It's like, but what's crazy to me is that when you go in the store and the stuff is at, you know, the various parts that it's in, it has the price tag like right by it. So he picked up something that said 7.99 or whatever. And then when he gets up to the front, I guess he thought it was old price tag. I guess it's just the way that he phrased that to the person he was on the phone with, like I'm like like I go around the store creating the prices, like this will be three, and this will be five, and this will be 10. You know, like give me a break. No, if you don't like Lysol, then don't buy it. Go and when you want to spray something down, use your I don't know, just don't have any spray then. Like I don't care. Man said $8 for some Lysol. Like, no, I didn't say anything. That's the price that they that they have the product at. That was dude, that's my favorite thing about customers, like, at these like, I know we talked about this before, but just, like, I'll never get over how they will talk to the, cashier, like the cashier can do something about the prices. Like, the lady that, I think I mentioned she grabbed, like, 5 or 6 things. She was like, "That costs more than dinner," as she was going away in her cart, and I was like, What do you want me to do about it? Like, Bimbo, I didn't make this. It's just weird, man. Like they really turned the cashier into the avatar of their hatred for, or their like into the avatar for which they can air their grievances to the company at large. Like, why don't you guys carry newspaper anymore? I don't know. Last time I went in here, the milk was $3. Now it's 3.45. It's like, okay, I didn't increase the price. Maybe there aren't as many cows anymore. I swear they make me sound like I'm the price king. Like I just sit back from my castle decreeing how much this will be today and what discounts you can get on that product or that product. I have declared that this item that was $8 will now be 8.50. I tell you, when stuff really gets too overpriced, they act like our when stuff really gets too overpriced, I just don't, and it's not a utility. I don't bother with it. That's why I gave the example of how, oh, they do act like entitled kids, absolutely. That's why I gave the example of how when I was going to Chick-fil-A, they increased their small shakes from $2 to 4.50, or now it's like 4.99. I haven't ordered it since. Just it just costs too much. So if you're upset that the Lysol is $8, don't buy it. That's why I said people drive me crazy because they act like these products are some kind of mandatory thing. Yeah, Envoy, the small, well, they only have one size. Shakes Home Sponge Shake at Chick-fil-A used to be $2. I would go in every weekend. I would get a burger, some fries, and a shake. It was like $12. I went there one day and they were talking about $15. Like what? They increased it from, it went from $2 to $4. Then it was 4.50. Then it was 4.99, and they haven't made it bigger. Nothing, just a little small shake for $5. And like I said, I can go to McDonald's and get a shake twice as big for 3 or 4. So they can keep their little small ripoff crap. You won't see any tears from me. Yeah, but they think it is wise to have a back and forth with the cashier or the person who told them the price of stuff. Well, like I said, they see you as an avatar to air their grievances with the company at large. So they know they'll never be able to, complain and moan to the CEOs. They know the manager's probably too busy to listen to their nonsense. So they'd rather, argue with the cashier who is not in charge of any prices. To imagine going to what's a good example of something crazy, something similar to that. I'm trying to think. Um, Imagine if you, like, let's say, edited videos for a person at a big channel, and somebody found out that you edit their videos, and they're like, "How could he say this about that? How could he do this with regard to this?" You're like, "Hey, hey, I just edit the videos. I don't make the message. How could he say, dude? Complain to him. I don't control what he says." But see, they use you as the avatar to go after the guy that actually is, saying the things in the videos. They can't get to him, so they'll try to get to. They'll like use you as the avatar to express the grievances towards. It's really crazy. It's very wise to have a back and forth with the employee, because we have all the power in the world when we work in these places. We're just so strong. We can make the prices different. We can snap our fingers and click our heels, and everything just gets so much better. Oh man, I'm just thinking about this person's grades. Like, it's funny to watch people be surprised when someone has three Fs or four Fs or whatever, and they never study like at all, unless there's a test the day before or the night after or whatever. Uh, and then when they can like barely get into anywhere, they just like keep doing the same thing. I say, like we were talking about the mundane existence, and I'm not even kidding. Sometimes I feel like you could apply that to parents too, where I feel like a lot of people just have kids because they get in these relationships that they either think are going to last, or they're just like having, quote unquote fun. And then they do the basics of like, oh, the baby needs, milk and all the rest of that stuff like that. But then when the kid gets to, the age where they can start learning things, picking stuff up, maybe they'll put them in some tutoring program. Uh, but besides that, they really don't seem to care all that much. Like, yeah, they feed them, yeah, they have them in school, but it's like, oh, my kid has grades that are barely passing. Well, as long as they're getting through. And then when the grades aren't enough to pass, they wag their finger and express such outrage. But then you remember that, hey, you weren't even studying with them at all. You weren't helping them in any conceivable way that it was of any major magnitude. You just let them sit in their room and not study while you sat in yours and did whatever else too. Uh, but that's why I said the mundane existence. It's so multi-layered because it's really about this idea that people just they do what is what is required of them, and to be anything above that is just too much. Like, it's cool to be a parent and have a kid that has like grades that are okay, they can pass whatever. But hey, maybe I can be one who has a kid that has B's and A's. Maybe I can be a parent of a kid who is so smart and so advanced for their age that they get to skip some grades. Like I actually said before, one of the things I always thought was so interesting is how you could get a kid at like let's say 4 or 5, because I think kids are they can retain stuff sometimes better than adults can. And if you study things with them over a rigorous year or so, I truly believe you can get most kids to skip like 2 grades of school at minimum, like skip first and second grade. Because I've just never found the curriculum of those 2 grades to be that advanced. But see, that goes beyond the mundane existence. It actually is part of that idea of, hey, we should do more than just have children that we feed them, right? We tell them don't do any bad things or whatever. But when it comes to like actually spending time with them and doing things that cultivate some kind of talent of theirs, they just couldn't be bothered. So the mundane existence rears its ugly head again. And trust me, it is very unsightly because it like you really would think if somebody has a kid, they want to see them succeed. But honestly, I'm telling you, a lot of parents just it's just whatever. Like, okay, I got pregnant, or oh, my girlfriend got knocked up. Okay, well, I guess I'll be doing this for the next 18 plus years. They just don't really seem to be that invested. Because I don't know, I could like I get where somebody, oh, it is a disaster, but I guess I get where someone who works 40 hours a week, they come home, they're tired, etc. But even on the weekend, they're like this, where they just sit in their room, and the other ones, like they'll have a kid just like sitting in their room, and they don't go and hang out anywhere. They don't talk, just nothing. Just so I said everything is so vapid. It's so empty and hollow, and not becoming of an actual, what's a way of putting it? It just doesn't seem like people enjoy having families a lot of times. Just it's like just this annoyance to them, like just this ordeal they have to put up with because it's a societal norm to, meet someone and have relations with them and then create a life that you do the most basic of things for. You give them some food, give them a place to live, a little bed to sleep on, whatever. But as far as, hey, let's actually go do something together. Let's make sure that you can actually pass school and we won't have to put our hands over our hearts and hope and pray that you're able to pass these tests because we didn't help you study the whole year. They don't seem to care. And it's really sad because, like I said, there's a lot of smart kids that I think if they had parents who were more, I don't want to say aggressive, but more like hands on, like, hey, I'm working this week 40 hours a week, but maybe on Saturday we can go and study, or hey, maybe tonight we can go over this. If they had people in their life that were like more uh interested, instead of just, well, I have a kid, I guess I have to give him something to eat, and oh, they got some bad grades, well, let me wag my finger even though I didn't help them study at all. I don't know, I just would feel really bad if, like, I had a child who, and, like, not even like not even like a little baby, like a little 5, 4-year-old, but like one who's maybe 8, 9, 10, 11, and like they're getting close to, like, within the next 10 years being able to vote and being adults. And it's like you don't take like an interest in them, like, hey, you need to learn a couple of things about this, that, or the other. Just, I don't know, just it just seems to me that so much stuff is just, they don't care. They don't care. They take care of their kids in the most bare minimum way possible. And even that is like, just because they think it's a requirement. It's something you have to do, or else people will take them away if you're negligent. But they really in a lot of cases are negligent. They're not hands-on with their studies, which is why a lot of them will have these grades that aren't that good. Because there's not like a parent that's pushing them to, do better. And it's very worrying and a concern because it means that we're going to have another generation of these people that just, again, the mundane existence, they exist for no other purpose than to just go to work or school or some other thing that society tells them to do, and anything above or beyond that they couldn't be bothered with, because this is like the catalyst for a lot of problems that can occur in the future generation. I'm telling you, man, people will never talk about this, but there is a true set of parents who just, they have a kid, and they think because they feed them and they give them somewhere to live, that's like enough, right? They don't talk to them, they don't study with them. Most of the time of the day, they're fine with the kid just sitting in front of some device. And it's like I don't usually tend to let personal stuff of this nature get on here, but I didn't have that upbringing at all. Like, back in, what was that, 2009 and 8 and 10, Discord didn't exist. Skype was a thing, but I didn't know anyone that had that. And the only time I would really be on the computer all day, supposedly was just if maybe someone I was with wasn't feeling good. But like, if, for example, if I had someone who liked the same things as me and they came over my house, I would put all the devices on hold to talk to them. Like, a lot of kids don't even get social interaction where it's like they could have someone who likes the exact same things as them, and they would rather sit in front of that stupid device than talk to the person that they apparently like or have things in common with. Like I was accused of being I was like antisocial or whatever, but honestly, if someone came over my place and they like what I like, I would speak to them. Um, and like I said, that whole thing of like sitting and staring at this all day long, I never did that. You know, I was a kid, I would read comics. I would go with my grandparents to different places. Like I never would just like sit there because like I'm telling you, even back when I was a kid, I used to like write stories and draw. Like some of these kids, they literally just sit on the computer on Discord playing a video game and talking to the same 5 or 6 people who they don't hang out with at all or even know that well online all day long. Like there's not a single talent being cultivated whatsoever. It's just I'm telling you, I keep calling it the mundane existence because that's what it is. It's parents who have children who they didn't plan for, and now that they're here, they don't take an affirmative, aggressive like hand with, and they basically just let them, be raised by the device. And the only time they rear their head is to tell the kid to do an errand or not an errand, a chore, or to get mad at them when they do something wrong. Like, hey, you got bad grades this year. Okay. Even though I didn't help you study, but I'm angry because, I'm supposed to be. That's what a good parent looks like. So it's really sad. I do the same thing too. That this is what I did back in my younger days of growing up. Certainly agree with you. Well, you get what I'm saying. That it's okay to spend time by yourself, but if all that time is just you staring and playing games and like you're like, for example, when I was in like the beginning of high school, that's when I would read a lot, and I do feel like that's different from just playing some games because I'm retaining information. I was able to then use it for some of my assignments later on. But I'm telling you, a lot of them they just sit on these devices all day long. Like I'm really uncomfortable with that because it's not even, oh, there's no one here to play with me. Oh, there's no one here. Like they will have people that are into the same things as them that they will completely shut off from. They will sit there and have someone that likes the same things as them, and they will be too busy staring at the goddamn screen to talk to that person at all. And that's nuts. Like some of these kids don't even act like human beings anymore. They don't even acknowledge if another person is there with them. Same thing with the parents. Like they go into their room, they stare at the TV until they go to sleep, and the only time they really seem to care about their kid is if they get called up to the school about the kid acting up or whatever. And if the kid gets in trouble over like grades or something, like that's really the only time they take like a concern of like, oh, what is my child doing? Other than that, they don't really seem to be all that bothered by they're them not knowing basic historical events, them not knowing how to do their homework, them having grades that are frankly terrible. um I don't know, I always imagined like I started noticing this back in the early 2010s. And you know what, that was an appropriate time to notice it because that's when social media, like the internet's been around for 30 years, but internet in 2005, like back when I was a kid, was crap compared to what it is now. Like, yeah, you had MySpace, you had Facebook in its infancy, but you didn't have these like sites that people could just get on and, you know, talk to somebody all day long via voice or I'm talking about. It really became like as cancerous as it is around the early or mid 2010s. That's when social media just became this barren wasteland of people letting their real life slip away from them to maintain this computer stuff. It's really sad, and I feel bad for a lot of the people that have been born since then because they're going to grow up in an era where instead of, you go and you ask some girl in real life, hey, do you like I like you, etc. Now you send them a private message saying that, and then they can share it around and make fun of you across the whole internet. And uh it's just it's all really depressing, just like the role the parents play, where a lot of them let these devices raise their kids. Like I don't know, I couldn't imagine being a parent knowing that my kid is not doing that great in school and just not getting involved. Like I'm telling you, from when I even back when I was in, like, I don't know, third, fourth, fifth grade, I had help, and it wasn't just tutoring. I had relatives that would sit me down and help me with stuff. I didn't just, oh, parent sits in room, I get on computer. Like that wasn't a thing I did Monday through Friday. And that's what a lot of them do Monday through Friday. I really just, even in working 40 hours a week, I think I would at least on the weekend do stuff with the kid. I that's just my theory, because yeah, I get it. Some people are busy, right? This is the two job era after all, but there's a reason why it takes two parents to make one kid, because if if one parent is busy, the other one should be able to do something. But it seems like neither is doing anything, and that's the true issue. Like the only thing they're doing are the mandatory things of like having to feed the kid and house them. But as far as any, extracurricular stuff, like, hey, you like to draw, let's draw together, or draw me something, or hey, let's write a story together. Like, I don't know, I just feel like parents, they're not what they should be. They're not people who actually want to raise someone to, at the very least, attempt to be, all of what they should be. It's just, well, I got pregnant, and I guess I'll take care of this thing inside of me. And then take care is like, okay, well, here's your food, here's your room. See you tomorrow. I'm telling you, man, people are so hands off as parents. It's really depressing. Very passionless. That's why I call it the mundane existence. Because, like, listen, do I think it's mandatory that every single American has to know everything about history? No, I don't. But people who are into something and truly into it try to know everything about it that they can. That's why they have experts, they have historians, they have people who, like, it's not even just historians of like American history. You have sports historians, people who can tell you about matches from 30, 40, 50 years ago. You have video game historians, people that can tell you what games sold the most. I mean, I'm just saying that, like, this isn't about, oh, you don't know what I know. It's people. Well, cell phones are they're a trade-off, because on the one hand, you can use the internet to learn things easier than any other point in human history. But the problem is people are not incentivized to try and learn things. They just kind of are like, whatever. So phones themselves, even I really would say social media is the problem, because phones have been around for a while, and they, like in the early 2000s, you didn't have to worry about, oh no, my friend is going to ignore me so they can call somebody else. It's that those websites, man. But I'm just saying that people who actually are passionate about something try to learn about it. That's why I gave you the example of how my friend, who, tries to have opinions on stuff, is not passionate about much of anything, because when, I asked him, hey, you like Batman Beyond more than the original Batman. What's the real name of the character of Batman Beyond? What's his actual real name? Uh but again, someone who is really into that show would know that very basic question I just asked. So that's why I'm saying, this isn't about everyone having to know the same thing. It's me simply saying that I think the better parents that have existed are the ones that actually do things with their kids, that actually see them as people that need some kind of guidance, and they need to, like, truly be there for, I just don't think a lot of modern parents are up to that task. I think many times people have kids because it was an accident, or they want to, like, this is even more cynical view. They feel like they can get something out of them, like welfare or possibly internet stardom. Because I mentioned before, a lot of chicks that I've seen in real life will take their kids and treat them like dolls. They take pictures. Oh, look at my baby. You know, these conversations are always cool and interesting to listen to. I seriously don't see or come across anyone discussing the topic in depth like how you do. Well, like I said, I really was serious about wanting to be a parent. The biggest thing that stopped me again is like how rancid women are nowadays. But I had many, different ideas and thoughts, and like seeing people who I didn't think were good parents, you know, really like motivated much of my belief systems, because I've seen people who actually want to do things with their children. We've seen people in history that wanted to do things with their kids, and like, they actually go somewhere in life. And if they do, it is always very surface level. Oh, yes. Because trying to have an intelligent, in-depth, nuanced conversation about topics that concern relationships and the dynamics of human beings is not something that people are interested in doing, unfortunately. I'm just saying that there is there's a serious problem with the way a lot of parents are. They're not there for their kids in any substantial way. Like, I remember when I was a kid, like wanting to draw, and my grandpa getting me a tablet to draw and like asking me what I was drawing. And I remember when I wrote my first book, he was the only one that read it before it even was came out. Like, it's just I'm just talking about parents that actually like do things with kids, that like are serious about, hey, what are you trying to become? What are you trying to, just supportive, like, and taking an interest. I don't see that with a lot of modern parents. I don't. Very surface level. You don't think it's kind of crazy that like you live with someone that you made, like you created this person. And I don't know, like I would think that if I made another human being, I would be on them like flies on dog crap. I'd be asking them, "Hey, how are you doing? You want to go do something this weekend? Hey, there's this new thing that came out. You want to go see it? Oh, you're doing this. You want me to help you with, just like, because you already spend most of the day away from them because they're at school, you're at work, whatever. But just I don't know. I just feel like people, they have an idea of what a relationship between a parent and kid is supposed to be, but then when you actually see it in execution, it's not as close as it should be. Because ideally, your parents should be the person you go to before anybody else about anything. If you're afraid of something, you go to them. If you need help with something, you go to them. I mean, that's how, I would think it would go. And of course, there's some stuff you wouldn't tell your parent because whatever. But I'm just saying that, like, if you need help with something, you would think those would be the people you turn to first, or the ones that you would, you know. I'm just saying. I just feel like there's something wrong with the way relationships are between people who created each other and people who were created by someone else. They should be closer than they are, but they're not, for reasons that are very obvious to anyone that just watches the way that they interact with each other. Like, it's not even like, oh, me and this person have nothing in common. Because I've had people that I didn't have a lot of things in common with, but I could still talk to. Uh in the case of some of these parents, like, they'll have a kid who likes the same thing they do, and they don't do anything together. It's really crazy. Man, the mundane existence, it just keeps trucking along. You talk about your friend not knowing basic knowledge about something they claim to have a huge interest in. It's astonishing and very embarrassing. Well, I'm just using that as an example because I feel like if someone calls themselves being interested or into something, they should know what they're talking about. It doesn't mean you have to know every single thing about it, but I mean, the question I asked was very basic. The name of the main character of this show you claim you like so damn much. The show that you claim you like so damn much, but couldn't be bothered to go and rewatch in the 20 plus years since it ended. So yeah, that show was on sale on Apple TV. I got the whole 50 some episode show for $20. It was a great deal. So there's really no excuse as to, why they couldn't go and rewatch it if they wanted to. But they just don't care. I mean, Megumi, you see the same thing with the Dragon Ball fans. Like, yeah, a lot of them were talking about crappy Super was, but how many of them have gone back and rewatched the original or Z or GT or any of that since it aired on Toonami in the early 2000s? That's why it's very easy for them to forget basic things about characters, like stuff that anyone who's actually seen the show in any recent time can remember. Again, the mundane existence. That's crazy and embarrassing. Hey, Megumi, the most crazy thing to me are the Dragon Ball fans that say they love the series, but then they've never watched the original. They don't have the right at all to call themselves an actual fan. No, actual fans have at least engaged with the stuff. Like, listen, I don't necessarily like Star Wars fans all that much. Um, but the one thing they have almost every other fan base beat over is that whether they like something or don't like it, they've seen all of it. You have Star Wars fans who've seen not only all 9 movies, they've seen Clone Wars, they've seen Rebels, they've seen all the Disney Plus shows, they've read all the different books. I mean, they are one of the most dedicated, passionate fan bases out there. They when people call themselves fans of stuff from them, I actually believe them. They're not these little like weird casual people that just, oh, a new movie came out and I'm gonna say I like this even though I have no memory of anything that came before it. So that they're the one group that when they say they're fans of something, I'll take them at their word 9 times out of 10. I wish Dragon Ball fans were as passionate as them. I really do. Like people who actually watch their stuff. Because Megumi, make no mistake about it. If I had a regular DVD player, and because Dragon Ball's on like Crunchyroll, they have a little stupid app service. I would have been got the DVD sets of DB and rewatched it over and over. I love that show. I would have what I'm talking about. It's just it's one of those things where because of where I'm staying, it's hard to really like engage with it as much as I'd prefer. And the way that Funimation set up their app service is kind of janky too. Megumi, I love Dragon Ball so much. That's why I skipped the whole first third of the story in the manga. I'm telling you, I've never been more embarrassed of fans of anything than them. Like, I'm not even the biggest. Let me see. Man, I would not be able to take that claiming to be a fan of something but not knowing basic information about it or not engaging or knowing the things before it. And it just drives me crazy because it's like these people really will talk about this stuff like they love it. Like I like this show so much that I haven't seen it in over 10 years. Big fan. I love this show so much. I don't remember the main character's name. Like All it took to prove him to be full of crap was that one mic drop question. That was all I asked. They are the laughing stock, the butt of all jokes. Like, come on, dude. When he said that like I just instinctively knew because like this guy that says he doesn't rewatch anything is like I bet he doesn't even remember the main character's name. I bet, and I was right. Yeah, I love the original Dragon Ball and Z. I would definitely go and rewatch those more often if I had the like a DVD player or well, I still retain the basic information. I mean, I didn't see the last Airbender the full show for like over 10 years because I used to rewatch it over and over when I was a kid, but I still remembered the plot structure and whatnot. But no, they can't retain any. I mean, that's why I gave the example of how like I was kind of being mean to uh Akatsuki Merchant a little bit. I wasn't trying to like make fun of him that much, but I was just saying that um when he said that Carter was president during World War II, I thought it was crazy because it's like this is so historically. I mean, for me, I know I'd say more about these people than most people do. I feel confident enough to say that. And I feel like one of the most basic things to know about these people is when they were born. So when you know when these people were born and you try to tell me that this person was the head of state 30 years before they actually were the head of state, that's where it's like really goofy to me because it's like it's so far removed from their actual period of prominence. Like it would be like it's so far off is what I'm getting at. That's why I thought it was funny. I was like, really? And the fact that you can look it up online too to be correct. So it's not like you're in a history class and you're having to answer something off the spot. You can look it up and know. Megumi, imagine what I would look like if I was like, "Oh, Queen Elizabeth became queen in the 1920s, right?" Because that's 30 years removed from when her dad died and she took over in 52, or was it 53? I know it's like the early it's around when Eisenhower was president. But you get the idea that it's one thing to know who someone is, but to have like your time period be so off is what I was laughing at. No shame at all looking something up if you don't know something. Yeah, like I didn't exactly remember the year she became queen. I know it's at some point in the early 50s. So I'm gonna look it up right now. Let me see here. I think it's 52. It's either 52 or 53. But it's sometime during the TV era. I remember the 50s are when we really started getting the televisions going. Let's see here. The parents are kids themselves. Oh yeah. Yeah, but you know what? I remember because they mentioned her coronation was was the it's one of only two coronations besides her son to be televised. And I know if it was set in like the 30s or 20s, then it wouldn't have they wouldn't have had that filmed. No, I've got a pretty decent memory when it comes to I'd say to like when stuff happened. Like if I don't remember the exact year, I know it's like around a certain time period. The parents are kids themselves. I'm just imagining these like little babies. They really are. I mean, like I said, they go and they work their little job and they, go and maybe watch a show they like here or there. But as far as doing anything above that, like actually cultivating the talents of their kids, couldn't be bothered. That's good because it shows you aren't way off. Well, with Elizabeth, I remember that she met with Truman, and I know that Truman was president from 1945 to 53, and I know that she met with Eisenhower, and I know that her like she comes into power like around the same time that Eisenhower does. So I I'd say my memory's decent as far as I just knew that it was around that time period is where she is handed the reins because the stuff with her goes back to like basically the whole period after World War II. Because I know that she's not acquainted with Roosevelt or I believe she did meet Churchill because he was around until 64. No, I try not to brag or anything, but I like to remember my dates and my years. Oh, these parents, man, they are just. I almost want to retitle the stream "The Mundane Existence 2" or something like the mundane existence for parents. Because I do believe some people who had kids, you know, years ago, they actually want to take care of another life, but now it's just whatever. It still is painful to know about a lot of people who call themselves fans of something but can't remember basic information about it. Well, it just shows you that they're not real fans. They're just following trends. Like they I mean, how do you call yourself a fan of a movie series and you've only seen like 2 of them out of 13 or 5 out of 10? Like it's weird. And about the kids' missed potential thing is plain depressing. It really is missed potential because I believe I'll put it this way, I think a lot of people have a talent or something that they can do, and maybe they can't become some giant big celebrity off of it because there's only a few of those every now and then. But that if given guidance by parents who truly want to see their kids surpass them in terms of either notoriety or wealth or success, whatever dimension you want to roll that by, they can achieve something better than they would have if they had just been alone. But because they don't have a parent that really encourages that stuff and is just kind of extremely hands off, you get this type of thing where just a lot of people don't, they go to school, they get a job, but they don't really do anything that is beyond that. It's just whatever. Again, the bare minimum. I don't know. I just think about how different things are from just like not even 15 years ago. Like I remember as a kid writing and like drawing and like I still do those things and I had people that were actually supportive of those things and knew I liked to do those things and it's just kind of depressing now that a lot of parents just they're because they're so hands off they don't really have the kid doing anything of that sort. They just kind of have them staring at whatever. I guess you'll do this. Yeah, very unfortunate. A lot of things could be better and different. I mean, what's the benefit to having a child, someone you create, and doing nothing with them? Oh, I get them food. Oh, I take care of them. Like, how do you take care of them? Oh, they have somewhere to live. It's like, okay, but if they get bad grades in school, are you going to sit down and study with them to make sure they don't? If they want to become a singer, are you going to write songs for them? Are you going to tell them to go practice their singing for you? Are you going to get them a talent agent, or some kind of lessons to learn instruments? Like I said, I just don't feel as if a lot of people really care all that much about their kids. It's just whatever. We made some. We'll deal with that for the next decade and 8 years, and that'll be that. And this truly is the era of underachievement. And like I said, Megumi, in 10 years, get ready to have people asking, who's Queen Elizabeth? I already know it's coming because all the dummies over here, they're not going to mention the longest reigning monarch of Britain. They're not going to, talk about how much of an icon she was. You're going to get more of the same old, lazy, lack of information presenting people. It's really sad. Megumi, I'm telling you, when Senator Kennedy died when I was 11, you would have thought a head of state had passed. Everybody knew who that was. It was all over the news. This man had been arguably the most well-known senator of the last 40 years. And then here I am 10 years later, and I have like schoolmates who I have a person who's not even 2 years younger than me. Who's Ted Kennedy? I just put my hand over my face, man, because I remember when I was a kid, they talked trash about him on those different conservative networks, and you know, just it was such a disconnect because it really shows you that once you die, people forget about you, and they don't forget because you didn't do something important or you didn't matter, but because nobody talks about you. They don't like the people who knew you existed. They don't say to their kid or their grandkid, "Oh yeah, there was this one person that man they were doing stuff that nobody else would." They don't retain or carry any semblance of information for the subsequent generation. It's very unfortunate because again, it goes back to that same thing of how when you have the mundane existence, the only thing you care about is the bare minimum. You just want to go work your little stupid never-ending job and then, go and watch TV, and maybe you'll give your kids some food tonight and tell them to go do something productive for once, and that's it. It's like the just the tiniest bare bones, and it's so pathetic. It is it's an inconvenience for a majority of them. Yeah, I really don't like thinking about that because I'm aware how true it is and the sad reality. So I just want you to know, Megumi, if you pass and people don't remember who you are, it's not because you didn't do something important. It's just that's how people are. When you're not alive, they forget about you. Unless there's a really big group of people that keep talking about you. That's the only way. And unfortunately, most of us don't have that. And I do mean that when I say unfortunately, because I mean you have some people who they don't even remember their own damn uncle or aunt or grandparents. That's I'm telling you, that's really scary. What about someone in your family who they were close to and they pass away? Oh man, I know the feeling of that. I've had it happen 3 times now. They don't ever mention them again. Some people are like that. I think in real life, I'm more selective about who I talk about them with. Um, I think it depends. Well, people who played a big role in your life in a good way, it's a lot harder to, erase them or ignore them or act like they didn't exist. Because how could you forget? But it's simply a matter of the people around you, you know, don't know who they were, don't know much about them, and do you really feel like explaining to them, "Hey, my grandparent, took care of me from when I was a kid and took me to cultivated my talents, and in many ways I am who I am because of them," just that type of thing. If you really even feel comfortable disclosing something like it just depends, that's what I think. Hey, there should be a TV show where there's like a group of people, like a family, and the theme song it'll be like called The Forgotten Family or something. And it's just like these this family that saves the world over and over again, but it always gets covered up by the papers, or only a small number of people know about it. So like no matter and it's like a play on the idea that no matter how good or impactful the things they do are, no one remembers. It's a very unfortunate circumstance because what does it tell you that if you do something good or right or nice, whichever way you want to refer, or even extraordinary, give it 5, 10 years after you die, people don't even remember who you were. Nobody writes any books on you. And if people do write books on you, most people don't read them. They'd rather go bop their head to some music. I mean, it's like you have. I just it's really depressing. With the more you unpackage it, it just it gets just sad. They probably would remember it if someone who committed oh, of course. Oh, yeah, we talked about they know all. Dude, some of these people, it's like, think about this. Like, Megumi, imagine you lived in California, right? Just giving you an example. You don't know who your senators are. You have two of them. You don't know who your congressman is. You don't even know who your own governor, your mayor. You don't know who any of these people are, right? But you know serial killers, some of whom passed before you were even born. You know the various singers and rappers, including ones you didn't even listen to. You even know a little bit of actors, even ones that star in stuff you don't even watch. I mean, you don't think that's weird? Like the people who actually are in charge of the laws that govern you, you have no idea who they are. And we're not even talking about like, oh, historical figures, contemporary individuals in charge of the various laws that you live by. You have no idea who they are. But then all these singers and rappers and murderers and all types of other people that really have had no consequence on you directly, and will never, arguably never will have any consequence on you directly. You don't think that's weird? And remember, and this isn't like 40 years ago where you'd have to go and like see on TV who won the election. You can go and type in on your phone or your computer, who is the governor of this state? Who is the senator or senators? Who's my congressman? And you type in your zip code, and there you go. But it's like that's the stuff I'm talking about, where people just, this era is so infuriating, not because people don't know things. People have always not known things, but because it's never been easier to know things than it is now. It's never been simpler. It's never been less time consuming. It's just so sad. Like all this technology, yeah, the unwillingness to learn. And really, this I just want you to understand something. They don't know because it's hard to know, or it's like the information's cut off to them, it's closed out. They don't know because they don't care. That's all it boils down to. That's it. It's not, oh, I don't have any computers. I have no phone. Uh, the internet's off today or for the next month. No, they don't care. If it doesn't affect their day to day shenanigans, then it doesn't bother them to not know this stuff. It is the unwillingness to learn stuff. The power of not caring honestly is a huge deal. It is because, they don't I want you to understand something. The people I'm talking about, it's not like, oh, I don't care about, history or politics, but I care about this other. No, they're not even into that. Like we talked before about how this guy couldn't even say the name of the main character of the show that he claims to like but can never rewatch. They are like this with everything. That's why I called it the mundane existence, because there's nothing. They do this thing where they try to make it seem like they're passionate about something, right? But it's all extremely hollow, which is why all it took was that one question to just shatter any illusion that he was interested in that stuff. That's all it took. And it's the same thing with these parents. Like, dude, one of these days, and I'm not saying you have to do this, but I'd love for you to do this. Go up to someone who you know is a parent, young parent, right? Someone 30, 40, whatever, and just ask them about their kid. Ask them, hey, you have kids? How old are they? Oh, do they? And I'm not gonna like tell you to do this because I do think it's one of those things where somebody might get offended. But I bet if you were to go up to parents and ask them about their kids and ask them basic stuff like, hey, so what do they like to do? What kind of hobbies do they have? I wouldn't be surprised if some of them really couldn't tell you anything. Oh, do you and them ever hang out, go anywhere together? I bet that's not going on. Because, like I said, a lot of people, they just have kids by virtue of, dating someone and being nasty with them. And, here you are. It's not about creating a life that they want to take care of. It's not about, no, like the people who are close to me, I know, like right now, without even looking it up, if you asked me my grandparents' birthdays, either my maternal or paternal grandparents' birthdays, my father or my mother or my siblings' birthdays, or my best friend's birthday, I could tell you them like that. I wouldn't even have to look at a calendar. I mean, it's instantly there. Like I know what month it is, the day it is, um, how close it is to other people. I don't need to search on any device or be reminded. Like this stuff is just comes naturally for me. Just like with all these people, I could tell you what their hobbies are. I'm just saying that that's what happens when you actually care. Like when you actually want to know something, you retain it. A lot of people, they just don't care. Like they convince themselves that they care. Oh, I take care of my kid. Yeah. Good job on doing what you're supposed to be doing in like the most ever so slight way possible. Like wanting to get praised for taking care of your kid, which you're supposed to be doing, is like getting a participation trophy. Like good job on doing the thing you were supposed to do. Terrific. But any cultivating of talents, any like desire to do things with them and be there for them in some substantial way, you just don't see it. By the way, I was going to tell you, Megumi, the only reason and I don't even want to like I'm not trying to say this to be mean. Um, the only reason, well, I'll put it this way: if Diana was still alive, instead of having that very tragic, unfortunate passing that we all feel bad about, I am fairly confident she would be lesser known. You can get mad at me for saying that. I've seen a correlation where people who get murdered get treated with this like martyrdom status, and it really makes you wonder, like, hey, if this person had lived a full life, would you revere them? Would you talk about them? Would you say anything? Never mind positive, anything about them at all? Really makes you wonder. The power of not caring. That should be the title of the stream. Dude, this guy mentioned Kennedy as like the one that the mundane existence guy, right? The one I talked about on that stream. And it's I just thought to myself, he doesn't know his brothers. One was attorney general and was assassinated as well. The other one was one of the longest serving senators of all time. He doesn't know his VP who passed Medicare and Medicaid when he succeeded him as president. Two of the most important laws in American history, period. And I was thinking to myself, the only reason he knows JFK is because he was murdered. That's it. Because he certainly doesn't know Eisenhower or Truman or even FDR, which is completely embarrassing. This is all stuff that happened over the course of people who are alive's lifetime today. And I was just thinking, like, it's so sad that just people, they don't care. They only know something if there's like some sensationalism attached to it, right? Oh, this person died tragically, they died horribly. Let me watch a documentary on that or watch some video where somebody mentions that. But as far as knowing anything about that person, they don't care. Ironically enough, Kennedy's father, Joe Kennedy Sr., could be argued as one of the greatest. He really is like the polar opposite of the mundane existence. Like the amount of things he instilled in his kids. It's really crazy. Like having them sit at the table and reading and talking about current events, and they have to be the best at everything they're involved in. That's the kind of, like, I wouldn't as a parent be as assertive, like you must be the greatest, or but I would rather parents be like that, where they're like genuinely believing their kid needs to be as good as they can possibly be than just, oh, you got a D plus, well at least you passed. I would prefer his approach over a lot of this other modern stuff, because that's how I would be as far as like hands on, like, hey, let's go over this, hey, let's talk about that, hey, have you ever heard of this, just I'm talking about, like, I have respect for that approach, even if it's not one I would be as interested in taking, because at least it's, you know, still someone showing interest in their kids, like excessively so. Might as well tell the stream that for sure. The power of not caring. That's what it is. People just don't care. Oh, I just find the whole thing so sad, man. Like, they don't care about, no, they don't. They don't care about books. They don't care about history. They don't care about the things they claim to be a fan of. They don't care about the people around them. I mean, the only thing they care about is getting some stuffed in their mouth and having somewhere to stay at night, and maybe go and watch something that they think is fun or entertaining one time and then never viewing it again because they don't actually care about that. It's all just, it's like I said, it's all just, it's mundane. It's whatever. It's you just live to live. You don't have any higher goal or purpose. Like, I actually have a goal with my channel. I want to do some documentaries. I'm trying to get it to grow. It actually has been, getting larger, to my surprise. But you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a purpose here. There's not just people talking just for the hell of it. So the price of them reflects that. Even signed copies. I'm telling you, the only time that books, like a regular novel, cost more than maybe at like a maximum $10 is if the author signs, or it's like a special edition. Other than that, they don't. Yeah, the prices do reflect that. I completely agree. But even, dude, even like when a signed copy is $40, that's really not that bad, because think about this. A signed copy is instantly of a limited quantity, right? It's like the person signed a million copies. So even with that, it's like you would think it would be even more, but it's not. Because remember, you're not just getting this signed paper with the person's name on it. You're getting a whole novel that they wrote. And they you get my point. Like that's really crazy to think about. You think it has to do with the lack of direction? I think it what it is that one parent doesn't really care all that much about teaching their kids certain things, and then the kid kind of just develops that same lack of concern. Um, and then it's like it spreads. Like that's how things and people get forgotten about because you create one generation that doesn't give a hoot, and then another one perpetuates that same belief system, and then another one perpetuates that same belief. And then what do you know? Someone or something is completely forgotten about. No one talks about it. No one says, "Hey, that was crazy that happened." They just don't care. Um, but yeah, you could say it's a lack of direction. But like I said, a lot of these people they don't have I remember one troll came on my stream was like, "Oh, where do you want to be in 5 to 10 years?" I actually do have ideas of that. Um, you know, whether it's online or just stuff in real life too. But a lot of these people, they have the most day by day existence. They don't care. Nothing to them matters other than their own survival. And even that is questionable because they don't do anything to ensure that they're going to be able to survive any better than they've been doing before. Like how many of them are trying to save cans and try to get a second job or increase the I mean they're not doing anything. It's all just the bare minimum to, you know, to make it out. And it's really sad because like I said, um I just think people can be more than this. I really believe that. I think people should know more, should care about more, but they don't really seem to be all that jazzed about learning anything. And it's really sad. Because like I said, they take that same lack of concern and they pass it on not only to their kids, but just the way that they act towards them too. Like they don't try to cultivate any talents. They don't spend any time with them. It's whatever. They don't seem to really give any type of a hoot about anything. Well, except filling their own stomach and having a place to stay, and that's about it. Oh man, it's very mundane. Doing the bare minimum just to get by. And the thing is, if someone is really struggling, whatever, I kind of get it. But if you have someone who's living somewhere where their parents are paying for them to stay there, and they're 5 days a week work, but they have the weekend off. It's like they don't have anything that stops them from reading something or you know learning something they've never heard of before. I mean, at that point, you just have to admit you don't care. Because like I said, there's nothing stopping them in that scenario. They're not working so much that they just have no time for this stuff. In fact, they have nothing but time, which is why they're able to sit online and screw with people all day and read all this stuff they claim to not care about. But you think I'm kidding? The ones with kids are even more dangerous because their lack of concern echoes, like it stretches. It really is like an infection. It spreads from them to their child because now they've gone from just being this person that was by themselves, didn't care, to now having a kid that also doesn't really seem to give that much of a hoot about whatever thing is happening as well. And they don't care about the kid that like people will get mad at me for saying this, but I truly believe if a an actual concerned and dedicated parent is one that spends time with their kids. They don't just go to places that they want to, and then I'm gonna drag my kid along because I have a babysitter. They do things with them. They play with them. They hang out. I mean, just like the most basic stuff. But a lot of people don't do that. They just let their kids sit on these devices all day. Like imagine being 10, 11, 12, 13, and you sit in front of a screen for 16 hours straight, like Do you really want to have kids like that? I don't. Like, go outside, go for a walk. I mean, with me, even if I'm on a computer for most of the day, I still am doing multiple things. I apply for jobs, watch a movie, write something. I actually have a 6-page script. I'm still trying to finish it by the time this week is finally over. So, even as someone who is could be argued as doing the same thing, it's still not the same thing because it's being used for multiple purposes. A lot of them will I'm telling you, from the time they wake up to the time they go to sleep, just on the device all day long, playing some game. Like at least when streamers do that, they get paid for it. These kids aren't getting paid for this. They're not gaining anything from that. And again, I think a responsible parent would say to them, "Hey, look, go do something else." Like, you know, I don't know. I just don't think that's healthy. I don't. To just stare at a screen all day with this, I don't really find it to be I'm telling you, man, I've seen it. Some of them they won't even leave the house. Like they won't even go outside. Like I remember I used to have a thing where I would walk every day just to like get some fresh air when I didn't have a car. And it's like they can't even do that. Like go for a little walk down the block. Not even that. Got to play the game. Got to stay on that device all day long. Every minute of every hour. Even when they go to use the bathroom, they bring the phone in there with them. Like it's weird. And I don't care what anybody says. I think that's nuts. Like I think people, again, actual parents that cared, they would put their foot down. They would say, "Hey, look, I get you like this device, but you can't sit on this thing all day. It's not healthy. It's not good. You're not learning anything. What is the point of that?" But again, when you have these people who just have kids to have kids, they they don't really seem to be that bothered by it. They're just like, okay, well, whatever. And that's why I said the mundane existence, it extends to people who have children. And arguably, those ones are the worst of anybody because now, like when you make kids who you don't have an interest in, it's noticeable to the kid that you don't spend time with them, which means that they're a lot of times going to feel like, okay, well, my parent doesn't really seem to care about doing things with me. So I guess I should just do whatever I want. It's not like they can react in time enough to even stop me from doing it anyway. It's really sad that parents are this way. I'm telling you, man, that's one of the worst parts about the whole digital age that like even the adults who grew up in an era where this wasn't a thing, they're fine with just having their kids staring at a device all day long and they don't talk to them, they don't speak to them. I'm serious. Like even as someone who was an only child when they were, really young, I still had people I talked to. I still had things I did. Like I just couldn't imagine being the way that a lot of these kids are nowadays. I really couldn't. It's really, really sad. Dude, imagine like Megumi, imagine you had a like let's just say you had a daughter and she wakes up at 12 in the afternoon on a Saturday. And you let her sleep in. She was up all night or wants to like sleep in after a week of school. And and like maybe you think to yourself, okay, she's in school. She's coming up on fifth, sixth grade. This is where stuff is going to start getting a little bit harder, higher forms of math, everything else, whatever. And instead of studying with her, or even like trying to tell her to go study, right? You go into the room and you see her like this with her head turned against the wall or at the screen of a computer. You don't sit back and say, "Hey, how long have you been on that device?" Like, you don't inquire like, "Hey, I want you to do some other stuff." You can't just sit here and stare at a screen all day long and, like, not talk to any real life person. And I mean, especially, like, as a student, you need to at least study a little bit, like, go over some of your stuff, make sure you don't forget it. I'll go over it with you. But I'm telling you, like, with these parents, people are not stupid in the sense that I've had trouble with math, for example, but you get where most subjects, I feel like they're kind of self-explanatory. A lot of it is vocabulary words, a lot of it is definitions and remembering, information. So you get where a parent who chooses to not study with their kid at all, it really is just laziness. Like, it's one thing to have a subject that you just don't get, right? You have a hard time with. That's how I am with math. But when you don't study with them on anything, it's like, yeah, you just don't care. Like, why else would you not go over this stuff with them besides just not being concerned? I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, it's not like this is something that you couldn't retain, because I've seen, math from, not math, but like these other subjects from, fourth, third, fifth, sixth grade. This is stuff I still remember, and I could, if I refresh myself. Sometimes you might forget some stuff, but if you look at the notes they have, the book, etc., it still tells you how to do it. So a lot of it really is the parent could remember it or learn it, whatever, relearn it, whatever, however you want to describe it, and then go over with their kid, but they just are not interested. They're not bothered by, whatever academic performance the kid may or may not have. It's not something that they feel needs to be course corrected, because in the end, the only thing that matters to them is the appearance of the kid being a good student. Like, hey, they go to class, they have all their little tools, and they show up on time, right? Whether they're getting B's, C's, D's, or E's, you only get mad when the grade stops them from being able to advance, because then it becomes more apparent to people looking from the outside that, yeah, your kid is not as well adjusted as you try to present them as. They're not doing as great as you wanted us to believe that they were. I'm serious. That the only time these people start pushing back on crap grades is when it prevents the kid from passing, or they're like close to failing the whole year altogether. That's the only time I see them showing any kind of emotion towards their kids' grades. Because, if I was a parent and my kid had A's and B's, I go, yeah, good job. I'm proud of you. I put my hand right on their shoulder and give them a pound on the back and take them out for some dessert, whatever. But when the grades are out, I'm going to say, hey, we can't let this stand. We have to do better than this. I mean, and, we're going to study on every Saturday. We're going to study after I get home from. I mean, I would really show that there's a consequence for not going over this stuff. That is when it is far too late. It's just like the parents who will let their kid, um, I mean, hey, go out at night by themselves and then be shocked when the kid's doing drugs or hanging out with people that are bad influences. Like, you're shocked, you're surprised. This is who they choose to interact with. That is when it is far too late. Absolutely. That's why I told you, these people, they put on the performance of a concerned parent, but the actual day to day, week to week activities are anything but. Oh, I love my kid. I got them some food. You're supposed to do that. Oh, I love my kid. I give them a place to live. You're supposed to do that. Oh, I love my kid. I don't hang out with them. I don't try to figure out what they're interested in and get them to do something relating to it. People really think if they spend money on someone, that means they love them or they care about them. But I've already said, you have to really, because and I mean this. being a parent is a full-time responsibility from the time that kid pops out of the woman's crotch all the way arguably for the rest of its life. You are one of the only two people that is responsible for it existing. And you don't get a break. You don't get, oh, I'm not a parent today. You don't get to do that. Um, so you have to really ask yourself, is this something you want to commit to? Because if you don't, you shouldn't be a parent. But that's why I said a lot of people, they don't ask themselves that. They just have a boyfriend or girlfriend that they get knocked up by, and then dude, if you man, that days off thing, if you knew who I was referencing, you would really be like, wow, I can't believe they did that. But I'll just put it this way: there's a parent I know that they used to drop their kid off at their grandparents' house every single weekend because they needed a break, and like that was one of the first instances where, as someone who wasn't fully developed, I was like, is that really a good rationale to just not see your own kid for 2 days out of the week every single week? Like during the weekdays, you're at work, they're at school. So you see each other for a few hours, right? Toward the end and at the start. And on the weekend, instead of doing something with them, you just don't even bother like hanging out with them or anything like that. I'm telling you, one of the stupidest things I've ever heard is a parent saying they need a break. That is funny to me. Oh, and then Megumi, imagine like, okay, so imagine being a parent and you take the kid to the grandparents' house every single weekend because you need a break. And then by the time the kid is a teenager, they're living with the grandparents and they don't even want to go over your house anymore. Like you basically have been completely usurped by the grandparents, and like you pushed the kid to them, right? By having them go over there every weekend. Like now they don't want anything to do with you. Like they're like, yeah, forget going over there 5 days out of the 7. Let's make it the whole week. You get the irony of that. Like you made the kid against their will go to the grandparents every single weekend. And then by the time they're a teenager, they're like, all right, I just want to stay over here. I don't want to go back over to your place. You get the irony, right? Because like you I thought that was hilarious. I really do. You said damn crazy. I think it was damn funny. Like you as a parent say, I need a break. So you send the kid to the grandparents' house. Then by the time the kid is a teenager, they're like, yeah, I want to stay over here the whole week. Monday through Sunday. Like you basically, I don't even like using this word, but you kind of cucked yourself. Like you made yourself obsolete by pushing these better parents on your own kid. Like you made them turn like turn away from you. I thought that was funny. Hey Megumi, do you have anything else left to write? Because I feel like I want to wrap this up soon so I can go and maybe run an errand or two. I think we've said all we need to say on these mundane parents. Dude, those book prices are great. And in an era where people are not reading, the fact that I can get very truly high quality, both in terms of what's written in them and their condition books for cheap prices, that's terrific. Because I'll never forget the one person who said, when you if you see an advantage, you take it. I'll have 100 books before I have 10 pairs of shoes.
other than noticing on a vid scale just how many people don't care about things as a collective is astonishing. On a wide scale, why did I think that was a V? I feel so ignorant. Other than noticing on a wide scale just how many people don't care about things as a collective is astonishing. It's really disturbing because, you know, make no mistake about this, Megumi. People do, to on some surface level, just to give you an example, care about politics, right? Otherwise, in a presidential election, we wouldn't have over 100 million people vote. But then when you ask them about basic historical figures, people who were in office, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, it's you get where it's like really kind of, because it's like people are interested enough to vote and be interested in the current thing going on, but then if you ask them to go back to the past and bring up someone previously, they their memory draws a blank. They're like, who's that? But it's that same thing of like it's trendy to care about the current one, right? The current thing that's going on, but then like to go back and look at someone from before, couldn't be bothered. And that really is the message of this stream. People just do not care. It doesn't matter to them. They don't care about historical figures. They don't even care about members of their own goddamn family. The ones that are deceased or living, they don't care about them. Whether you're their son or their nephew, it doesn't bother them to not speak to you or not do anything with you. But they love you so much. That's why I said I'll never not be astonished by just the things people can say and how their actions don't reflect that at all. Like just how polar opposite these things can be at times. It's really sad. I'm very serious. I'm never not going to be astonished by just how little people seem to care about anything. Like they don't care about their own family members. A lot of them don't even care about their own kids besides getting them a meal and somewhere to stay and then some school to go to so they don't get in trouble for keeping them out of school. Um, any historical events, even the ones that the consequences of which have directly impacted them or will directly impact them, they don't have any desire to show any interest in anything that goes beyond working some dead end job and being entertained for 5 seconds by whatever new movie or TV show is out that after it comes out, they're never going to watch again, most likely. So, like I said, it's just not something I could really be into. Oh, well, I'm gonna get off here so I can go probably to the market and get some good high priced food, and from there I'll probably. I mean, I'll stream again on Saturday, of course. But yeah, thanks for showing up, Megumi. The Rob the Realist person that was here for a few seconds. He made a little brief cameo. Akatsuki Merchant, Envoy, and making his grand return. I know he's shown up twice now in the last few weeks. I've been shocked. I thought he was gone forever, but it looks like he's made his triumphant comeback. And all I can say is if you have a family and you claim to care about them, actually spend time with them, actually know things about them, think of the things they care about, the things that they like. And I think people have never had more information available to them than now, and they just don't take advantage of it, and it's really sad. So, with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the stream and have a good rest of your day.